Okay, thank you for bearing with us. We're doing it live. Um, all right, so we've spent the last few months updating and redesigning the app to make storytelling even easier, and we're excited to show you what is new and what is coming soon. And our hope is that you come away excited to use Terraso Story Maps to tell the story of your work. Please don't hesitate to contact us with follow-up questions or to request personalized training for your team. A little housekeeping. The event is English only, but after the webinar, we will provide a version translated to whatever language people request. Please leave a comment in the chat if you would like a particular language to be provided. Here is our agenda for today. We'll start by showcasing two remarkable story maps from our partners at the Pawnee Earth Foundation and Heifer International. We think that these are fantastic stories, and they really showcase how Terraso story maps can be used for effective environmental storytelling. After that, we'll show you how you can tell a story of your own in just a few minutes. We'll cover the details of planning your story map, cover the details for planning, make a quick story, and publish it for the world to see. Then we'll briefly share new developments with Terraso story maps and take a look at what's coming next. And then finally, we'll take some questions from the audience. Terraso team members will be following along in the chat and the comments throughout the webinar. So if you have a question or a comment, please post it in the chat. And with that, we'll get started. The first story that we'd like to showcase is the story of Forgotten Rivers by the Pawnee Earth Foundation. Pawnee Earth is a nonprofit organization in Bangalore, India, dedicated to the protection and restoration of local rivers, which have been dammed, overexploited, and polluted. As scientists, cartographers, and organizers, the Pawnee Earth team are passionate about data and building connections with nature. We partnered with Pawnee Earth to help tell their story about the rivers and water bodies within and around Bangalore. We think that this is an excellent story and a demonstration of how maps and narrative can bring data to life. Let's take a look. The story of Forgotten Rivers begins with a single raindrop. No matter where you are in the world, you are standing in a watershed, a place where a drop of rain will flow to a nearby body. Following a drop of water through its watershed immediately ties the Bangalore audience to the rivers and lakes surrounding them. Pawnee Earth has an extensive database on the water bodies in this region. They use this data to reveal something that the average resident of Bangalore might not be aware of. They are in fact surrounded by water in various states of pollution. These water bodies crisscross the city and connect to an enormous river system. Pawnee Earth uses modern data and historical photos to paint a picture of the relationship Bangalore residents used to have with water, a flourishing partnership with riverways and healthy access to wells. Pawnee Earth also makes effective use of video. While satellite imagery can show the state of land or water at a large scale, video can provide additional color and texture. This video shows how chemicals in a reservoir cause the water to froth when it's in motion. This same water feeds nearby fields, which produce fodder for dairy cows, and ultimately produce food consumed by people. Pawnee Earth uses this story map as a call to action so that people can join a WhatsApp community and develop greater connections with the rivers nearby. This story map was not just circulated digitally, it was shared as a part of a museum exhibition on Bangalore rivers. The WhatsApp group has grown to hundreds of members and is a place where people can organize to visit nature, write poetry, have fun, and form a connection to the rivers so they can better advocate for them back home. So this is a powerful example of how story maps can fuel communications goals. I'll ask my colleagues to share a link to the story of Forgotten Rivers in the chat. Next, we want to showcase a story map called Sustainable Landscape Catacamas, developed by Heifer International in Honduras. Heifer International is a nonprofit that works to address poverty and food insecurity in developing regions by distributing livestock and providing agricultural training to families in need. The story is about a landscape where ranching is both an important part of the economy and an environmental challenge, and it's a path to regeneration. We wanted to share this story because it showcases how story maps can be effective tools for demonstrating impact. This story starts out with the big picture, looking at Honduras and the ranching industry. Then it zooms down to the landscape level, and then down to the level of a single ranch, a test ranch, where the challenges of intensive grazing are on display. One challenge often faced by ranchers is that herds that stay in one place for too long consume all the grass down to the roots, leaving the soil bare and easily eroded. We worked with Heifer to geo-reference their drone imagery for this story. That's a special feature that we're hoping to enable for everybody, but for now, we can help anybody who asks to build a similar map. Any story about solutions needs to clearly describe the problem. Heifer International explains how the degraded soil is less productive, putting pressure on farmers to clear forests and access new land. This results in rapid deforestation, a major challenge in the landscape. Heifer is also very focused on water. We worked for days together to figure out how to showcase how a drop of water falling on a mountainside passes down into a river and flows throughout the landscape, passing by many farms and ranches. Returning to our demonstration farm, we see the original grazing paddocks, which resulted in degrading soil. Now we see what happened, or what changed, when the ranchers broke their grazing areas into smaller spaces so that cattle could graze and then rapidly move off. This gives more time for the grass to recover and regreen a paddock, and ultimately provides more feed for the cattle. Note the overlaid drone imagery showing the regreening. This is the kind of storytelling that story maps are particularly good at. You can ground a narrative in a place and then use data and imagery to drive the story home. And I'll ask my colleagues to share the link to Sustainable Landscape Catacamas in the chat. These are two powerful stories that demonstrate how Terraso story maps can elevate communications with maps, data, and media. Now let's see how you can get started with your own story. As with any storytelling project, the best stories require some preparation. Before starting a Terraso story map, we recommend that you first gather your materials: pictures, geospatial datasets, videos, even audio files. This is what gives your story substance and catches your audience's attention. Ideally, every chapter has some sort of media. You can keep them in a drive on your computer or upload them to a Terraso group or landscape. More on this in a future webinar. Consider what places you want to visit in your story map. How does the land interact with your story? What sort of places are of interest in your story? Craft your message in advance. You should know your objective and how you will achieve it. And just a tip, story map chapters can be any length, but we recommend keeping them brief, like a post on Blue Sky or Mastodon, with a mix of short paragraphs to keep things interesting. Now that we have our story map, or that we have our materials gathered, we're ready to start. Here is a story map that I've just begun. I've added a title and subtitle so that audiences know what to expect with my story. So, some background. I'm on the board of directors for a land trust in my own town called the Great Meadows Conservation Trust. The organization has a goal of buying up land by the Connecticut River and preserving it for nature and for agriculture. There are many developers who have tried to build all sorts of things on these meadows, from racetracks to landfills, and the Land Trust has played an important role to make sure that local farmers can keep growing crops, as people have done here for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So now it's time to build my first chapter. Chapters are the building blocks of story maps. They contain the media, narrative, and we use them to define where on the map we should be looking. When we first started building Terraso story maps, we were told that most people didn't consider themselves to be very tech savvy, but pretty much everybody said that they knew how to make a slide deck. So we've structured story maps to behave a lot like a slide deck. Here, we'll make our first chapter. I'll set up the space with an introduction of the Great Meadows. I'll add a title and a description. Most of the time, it's a good idea to add an image to a chapter, especially an image of people if you're talking about people. In this case, I want to share a picture of the meadows that I think will convey what kind of a place it is. I'll add this picture to illustrate that is a place with fields by a river. Now, the location obviously isn't right. My home is in the northeast of the United States, not the Gulf of Mexico. So I need to find my home and the Great Meadows, which is nearby. To move the map, I'm going to click Edit Map. A lot of the time, you can simply search for a location you have in mind. So here I'm going to search for the geographic feature, the Great Meadows. And I'm going to click on the result, and you can see it brings me right to the Great Meadows. Now, not every place in the world is as documented as the United States, so we have a few other tips and tricks. For example, you can switch the base map over to Satellite and Streets, which exposes street and town names. This can give you some important clues. For example, if you know that your restoration site is west of a particular highway. Or if your story is in an urban environment, you can just switch over to streets and topography and navigate by street names altogether. An important use of Terraso story maps is to showcase geospatial data. In my case, the Conservation Trust has a data set about the parcels of land that it owns. That's a big part of our story, and it is helpful to show that on the map. I'm going to click Add Map Layer. Now I can select a geospatial file and put it on the map. And you can see that we support all different kinds of geospatial files. I happen to have already created data layers here, so I can reselect them to easily add them again. But this is a demo, so let's go through the full process of adding a file. I'll tap Select File, and I'll upload a file. Here I have the opportunity to set the name and customize some of the look and feel of my map. I'll change the name to something easily recognizable. And I'll change the color so it can stand out a little bit more. When I'm ready, I'll hit Save Map or Next. And you can see that the map is centered around my data file. This is another way that you can find yourself on the map. I can click and drag the map around so I can have the best possible perspective. And when I'm ready, I'll click Save Map. Now I'm back at the chapter level, and I can see that my map layer has been added. Next, I'm going to add a new chapter, and this one will be about an event that happened at the Great Meadows a few years ago. The summer rains were much greater than anyone expected, and all our rain in our watershed drains to the Connecticut River. When that happened in 2023, the meadows were flooded, and that wiped out all of our farmers' crops. As before, I'll add some information here. I'll edit the map and zoom in a little bit so that I'm focusing on this particular area. Now, I have a video that I want to add to this story. I could upload a small video directly, but in this case, there's a YouTube video I'd like to display. I'll click on Media and paste in this link. Now my YouTube video is playing. Looks pretty good. Okay, so let's pretend that I've completed a full story. I'll want to see what my audience sees, so I'll expand the right sidebar and click on Preview Draft. Yeah, everything looks okay to me. I'll exit the preview. I think I'm ready to publish my video, but I'd like to have a colleague review my story map, so I'll invite them to be an editor. I'll open up our sidebar, go to Invite Editors, and I want to invite my colleague Courtney to take a look. I'll type in her email address and click Invite. She'll receive an invite in the mail, and once she accepts, she'll have full access to review and edit my story map. Okay, so let's say that Courtney reviewed my story and says it's good to go. Now I can select Publish to make my story map available to everyone. Great, now my story map is live. I can share it and immediately distribute the story via social media or email. I can get a link to share it directly, or I can copy an embed code so I can show off my story map on my website or in a blog post. That's just a little bit of the functionality of Terraso Story Maps. In future demos, I'll showcase more things that you can do. For now though, let's close out this webinar with a look at new and upcoming features. So, if you've been following along with Terraso Story Maps, you might have already know that we've rebooted our data visualization workflow so that you can add data layers to maps more directly in the story map editor. We've also heard from some users that their audiences primarily are using mobile devices. So we've been focusing on improving the mobile experience. We've made it so audiences can always see the map on their screen as they move through the story. That's this visualization that you see moving here. We've added other little touches like a collapsible sidebar, which neatly organizes our expanding feature list, and an improved preview with featured image and description when you share your story map link in social media or in a collaboration space like Slack. Coming soon, we plan to improve the viewing and editing experience so that the focus area of the map displays as intended no matter what size the screen is. And this will be helpful for desktop users, but it's critical for viewers on smartphones. We're also working on a more robust rich text editor and color themes that will give you more control over the finished look of your story map. And we're reorganizing the map to be more oriented, or the app to be more oriented around storytelling. Many of these changes were the direct result of user feedback. We invite you to reach out to us with suggestions for improvements and requests for new features. To wrap up, I'd like to turn to the chat. I will read out any questions and comments left over from the chat and try to give some quick answers. Okay. Okay. I see one question. Will a recording of this webinar be available afterwards for future reference? Yes, absolutely. So this link that you are using now to view the webinar, immediately after the webinar, it will be live and posted as a YouTube video so anybody can view it and you can share it with your colleagues. We also plan to go back and provide updated subtitles at least for different languages that people have requested. And we will share out that link to everybody who registered for the webinar. Okay, I don't see any other additional questions at this time, but please feel free to reach out to our team if you have any, and we'd love to get in touch to provide additional support and training for your organizations. With that, this concludes our webinar. Thank you all for coming. If you'd like additional support, please don't hesitate to get in touch by contacting info@terraso.org. There we are. Thanks again, and have a great day. Oh, I'm sorry, I see one question. Can you film a video and then upload it straight away into our story map? Yes, you can film a video and attach it directly to the story map. There are size limitations, though. We are not really a video hosting platform, but if you have a video and you send it to a colleague via WhatsApp, we find that that's a great balance of quality and compression so that YouTube videos can, or recorded videos can play in a story map. Great question. Will one of the languages that we translate it to be Spanish? Yes, indeed. We are planning to provide Spanish translation. And right, if I hadn't mentioned this before, you can get started with Terraso Story Maps at terraso.org, and you will find an immediate link to get started with the app. Okay. Hello, amazing tool. Is it free to use? Yes, it is. It is free for everybody. We are very proud of that fact. Are there tutorials available? We have a help section with some written tutorials, and we are working on updating these tutorials and can provide more over time. So please don't hesitate to get in touch if you have any questions about how to use the tool. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I think I can end the webinar here. Thanks again.